What is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, here with another episode of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot to get to in the world of volleyball, such as Hawaii and BYU both taking care of business in their two-game series. They eventually will meet against one another, but will both those teams continue their success? Also, Ball State looks pretty good, but their test begins this week when they play Stanford, as week 2 will bring a lot of surprises. And how about USA women's volleyball? They've named their national coach in Eric Sullivan. Will he be able to do great things and lead the U.S. to the gold medal again? Also, the first week of LOVB and Pro Volleyball Federation begins, as it's sure to be a monster firestorm. So hand me a volleyball. Set Point. Some of the biggest volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on Iron Sports Radio. Your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. iSports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, iEsports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps. for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at SealTheDeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday wherever you're listening from. Either way, you've made it away in episode 280 of Set Point. Without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, as you just saw in the commercials or sponsors, Set Point would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on StreamYard. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on several different podcast platforms, such as GeoSoppin, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. The list goes on and on. Also, make sure to follow us on social media such as X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Also, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. We would greatly, greatly appreciate. We're trying to reach 500 subscribers by the end of this month, and with your help, we can definitely make that happen. And check out our website, iesportsradio.com, for all of your latest news, blog, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as Set Point, our merchandise shop where you can get some t-shirts and tank tops and some sweaters for the winter, as well as check out our Hall of Fame, where we just inducted 4 new Hall of Famers into the Hall of Fame, and they will be joining me, and so much more on the website. For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. The way you can follow Set Point on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at set_point.ie, and on Instagram at set_point.iesr. You can follow me, the host, Teran Rodriguez, at Teran Rodriguez1. Without any further delay, let us get on into the NCAA men's volleyball action. So we're going to start off with week 1. So week 1 actually began on Thursday. Contrary to popular belief, week 1 actually started on Thursday, if you can believe it. So yeah, many people thought that the Concordia Irvine versus Brandon of Manitoba, Canada, was actually a scrimmage and it didn't count, but it actually did count according to Concordia University Irvine SID, Ben Rosehart. So I got to give a big thank you to Ben for confirming that. So yeah, the first match of the season was between Concordia Irvine and Brandon. Look, it was a 5-set thriller. I was happy. Concordia took the first 2 sets. They even had a big comeback in set 2. But then Brandon eventually took the 3rd set in close fashion. They took the 4th set, and eventually Concordia had enough in the tank to outlast Brandon, which I thought was pretty good on their behalf. So the thing about Concordia is that they didn't have one player that cracked double digits in kills, which is very fascinating. But I believe his name is Eric Sears. He had 10 digs. He was actually one of 2 players to register 10 digs in a single match this week. So I thought that was pretty cool right there. And Concordia Irvine got its first win of the season. Now, Brandon, I don't really have too much of a takeaway for, considering this is NCAA men's volleyball, not universal volleyball. But yeah, the takeaway for Concordia is this. Look, it's great that they got the first win, and I'm happy they got the first win. But against other teams, I just feel this is going to be one of those iffy years for them. But I think they have a trajectory of where they're going to go. I mean, the MPSF is obviously loaded, and it got even more loaded with 2 more teams being added. But Concordia Irvine, we all know where they're going to go. And I think they have at least some trajectory, but I don't know how far they can go. But it's good that they were the team that started off the NCAA men's volleyball season. But I'm going to be 100% honest with you all. I really think there should be like an event for NCAA men's volleyball. So if everyone knows that NCAA women's volleyball had the first serve challenge with like teams like Nebraska taking on Kentucky and then Louisville taking on Wisconsin. It actually just got a whole lot better for next season, as it's going to be like a 3-day event, which is going to be held in Nebraska. So I think it's going to be pretty cool. And it's going to be in its big gymnasium, not at the Bob Devaney Sports Center. So I think that's pretty cool right there. But I think NCAA men's volleyball needs like a big time event. If we're going to grow the game of NCAA men's volleyball, we need like a big event to like get the fans engaged, like the NFL does. Like, why can't we have like a national champion take on like a contender? Like maybe UCLA just can't do that just because they have too much on their schedule and whatnot. Like, we need like a big time event. I know there's the First Point Collegiate Challenge, which is in 2 weeks. If you haven't bought your tickets, definitely do so. Actually, not 2 weeks, like less than 2 weeks. It's going to be in 10 days from now. So I need to put that plug in there right there. So, but yeah, I mean, maybe they could move the First Point Collegiate Challenge to the first week of the NCAA men's volleyball season to have that as the start of the season. But I just think that's just too much, just because NCAA women's volleyball just ended, and you've got the premiere of, well, not the premiere of like the Pro Volleyball Federation and LOVB, but yeah, you get what I mean. But I just think that week 1 of the NCAA men's volleyball season, that's pretty much where you've got to have like your big eye-catching matches. I know we had 4 with BYU and Ohio State, and then Hawaii and McKendree, but I just think that we need like a big season opening event that'll get the volleyball fans saying, hey, this NCAA men's volleyball thing is cool. Because I'll be 100% honest. I don't think anyone else other than me and fans of Concordia Irvine or fans of Brandon of Manitoba thought this was going to be the season opener. Or in this case, for NCAA men's volleyball fans, I don't think anyone from Concordia outside of me and Concordia Irvine thought that this was the season opener. Heck, I don't even think a whole lot of like volleyball media outlets out there knew that this was the season opener. So in my opinion, we need like a big time volleyball match to like kick off the season. And that's no disrespect to Concordia or Brandon. Like, it was a great match, 5-setter, and it was on Big Ten Plus, which I guess is going to be partnering with the MPSF and whatnot. But yeah, I just think we need like a big match where it's going to get a lot of volleyball fans engaged. Now, does this mean we need UCLA and Long Beach State to meet one another? No, it doesn't. That can be saved for later on in the season. But I just feel we need like a match or a event that's going to make every volleyball fan get engaged. So get engaged into the action. So why not? All right, but enough about that. So let's jump on into Friday's matches. So Ohio State and BYU. Well, before that, we actually had Ball State versus Wabash, which Ball State was able to win that 1 in 3. They also beat Trine in 3. So Ball State starts off 2-0. So they get a big test this week against Stanford, but more on that, a little on that later. But now we got to go into the other matches that happened. So we obviously have to go over the Ohio State versus BYU match. So the first match between Ohio State and BYU, Ohio State took the first set quite nicely. I was very surprised they actually took the first set. This is going to be a whole different team from Ohio State. They lost quite a bit of players to graduation, but Ohio State looked strong in the first set. They looked strong, but then BYU responded in the second set, winning that. And then eventually BYU wound up winning the third set and the fourth set. So the long story short, BYU was led by Luke Benson. He only played 3 sets, but he had 13 kills, and he hit over 500, which I thought was pretty good. But all eyes were on Keone Tim, who had 14 kills and 5 service aces, which I thought was pretty darn good, if you ask me. Not bad for a debut in a different jersey. So great job to Keone Tim. If you all remember, he was just like the serving specialist for Hawaii, but then he transferred over to BYU, and now he's beginning to shine. Teran Taylor also had some good numbers. He had 5 kills, and he also had 4 blocks, which I thought was pretty good as well. So all in all, for BYU, they look like a darn good team, and their serving was ever so tough. Now, for Ohio State, the takeaway is this. They didn't look bad. They actually had 3 different players with double-digit kills. And if you all saw my rotation of the week video, which was just recently posted, I really want to put Shane Wetzel as the opposite because he actually registered double-digit kills in both matches. But unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. And this is going to be one of those trying years for Ohio State. They had a big senior class last year, and now they're kind of trying to pick up the pieces and try to stay put with Loyola and Ball State. But I thought Ohio State didn't play too bad. I just thought that for BYU, they just were so much more aggressive. Now, the second match between BYU and Ohio State, BYU took that first set. Ohio State took the second set, which I thought was pretty good. And then BYU just bulldozed their way through the third and fourth set. Now, again, it's no fault on BYU, or no fault on Ohio State, but BYU is just a really good team. And Luke Benson had 21 kills in the second match. Keone Tim, 18 kills. They're looking like a good 1-2 punch at the outside hitter 1 and 2 spot. And then Shane Wetzel was the only double-digit player in double digits in terms of kills for Ohio State. Teran Taylor also had 11 blocks, which I thought was pretty darn good, if you ask me. So for Ohio State, you're not going to be winning too many matches in terms of if you're facing down a very good, talented team like that. But I think Ohio State, they didn't do too bad. I just thought BYU, there's a reason why they're number 6 in the nation to start. By the way, there's no ABCA poll this week, so unfortunately for everyone, we're just going to have to wait till next week. But yeah, that was Ball State versus BYU, or not Ball State versus BYU versus Ohio State. So Friday, we actually had another match. So late Friday, if you're watching that, we had Hawaii hosting, number 4 Hawaii hosting number 20, McKendree. If you're someone who lives on the Central Time or the East Coast and you watch this, I commend to you because honestly, it was late and I'm like, oh God, I got to be up early tomorrow. And I'm hoping I'm able to stay awake for most of this. But yeah, the first match between Hawaii and McKendree, Hawaii won the first set, 25-20, and then McKendree actually responded very well. This was a McKendree team that was chosen to finish 5th in the MIVA, but they don't look like a team that is selected to finish 5th. This team looks like they can really challenge their way to the MPSF championship. And remember, there is always that one team in the MIVA that just likes to come up big when it truly matters. I mean, McKendree did this 2 seasons ago when they were the 7th seed, and they knocked off Loyola Chicago in 5 sets in the quarterfinals of the MIVA tournament. So I thought McKendree, they were resilient, but then once Hawaii, which started 3 freshmen, once Hawaii got out of its growing pains, I thought Hawaii just looked so much more better. And Christian Tatrisky looked solid in the first match. Apparently he wasn't 100% as most of the others weren't actually 100% because of like the I think it was stomach flu or flu bug going around. But regardless, they also had Adrian Rohr stepping up. I thought he was pretty darn good the entire weekend. Christian Tatrisky was good in the second match, but more on that later. Eventually, Hawaii wound up winning in 4, which I don't think that is no fault of McKendree. I think in the first 3 sets, McKendree was in all those sets. And if they take the first set, then it's a whole different outlook for them. And if they take the first 2 sets, then it's probably either growing pains for Hawaii or it's just maybe McKendry's just much better than number 20 in the nation. But I thought McKendry did a good job in the first match. Now, the second match, for those that were wondering what happened with the second match, well, sadly, you couldn't watch this televised. It wasn't televised, which is unfortunate, but it was being played on ESPN Honolulu via the radio, which shout out to Tiff Wells on his great work in terms of the commentary of that game. Tiff Wells did an amazing job calling that game, and Hawaii wound up winning in 3 sets. Christian Tatrisky had 17 kills and 2 service aces. He was much more effective in that match. I just think that once he got his C legs and his Hawaii legs, he just looked so strong and dominant, or from what I heard, he just looked so strong and dominant. McKendry didn't have one player crack double digits in terms of kills in the second match, as De'Aaron McCraney led them in that department with 8. Yeah, and it was not a good night for McKendry when pretty much De'Aaron McCraney has to lead them in kills. Not that that's a problem or anything. De'Aaron McCraney, there's a reason why he was put on my rotation of the week, as he was pretty good. He hit over 600 in both matches. He had a good amount of blocks in the first match, and then he was very effective offensively in the second match. And then Kevin Shuley obviously was pretty darn good as well. So I think for McKendry, my takeaway for them is this: they should not be discouraged by these 2 matches. I think they should be happy with this result. They're young, well, not they're young, but Hawaii is a young team, but winning on the road at Hawaii is so difficult. I know it wasn't as packed as it was with like Long Beach State or the Big West Conference Tournament or like the Hawaii Outrigger Invitational, but I will say McKendry held their own in that match and in the second match as well. And I think McKendry will do big things. This week they play at UC San Diego, so the road trip continues for them, but I think they're going to continue to do great things. So I think they can do great things this season, and I think no one should underestimate them. So that is going to do it for those 2 matches. And then I guess one more match to go over is Menlo getting their first NCAA Division 1-2 victory over UC Santa Cruz. Well, I guess it's not but as a program. So for those that are wondering, Menlo is a new team that transitioned from the NAIA over to NCAA Division II. But since there's no NCAA Division II, it's just Division 1-Division II. So Menlo is in Division 1-Division II, or National Collegiate Men's Volleyball. So Menlo managed to take down UC Santa Cruz for their first ever Division I victory in men's volleyball. They won the first 2 sets 25-14 and 25-17. They lost the second set 26-24, but rebounded nicely in the fourth set 25-20. Menlo was led by Uyar Mustafa Selkuk, who had 16 kills, while Ty Carson had 12 kills. Wojciech Nowak had 10 kills. All in all, it was a strong night for Menlo. UC Santa Cruz was led by Kyle Onbe, who had 11 kills. David Polster added 10 kills. Long story short, this was I wouldn't say this was a mismatch, but I just felt that Menlo, being a Division 1/Division II school, was just going to have the edge over UC Santa Cruz. But I got to give credit to the Banana Slugs. They held their own following the first 2 sets. It's just I think they ran out of gas, because Menlo is still a strong team. There's a reason why they transitioned from NAI over to Division 1-2. All right, but that is that for the NCAA Men's Volleyball Week number 1. Let's actually go over week number 2's matches to watch for. So no matches today, but Tuesday we have Princeton taking on the Masters College. I think that could be a sneaky good match. The Masters College is still an NAIA, but maybe they can get the upper hand against Princeton. Princeton has not played a match this season, but I will say I think Princeton, they always have this West Coast trip. Sam Schweisky, if you remember my interview from 2 years ago, he said he loves to take the West Coast trip because the gym is not available because of basketball and whatnot. But Princeton loves to take their road trip to like Southern California or Northern California. And Princeton loves to schedule matches like these. And then you've got McKendry versus UC San Diego. it's the battle of two teams that are ranked but ranked lowly. So let's see if McKendree can take their good fortune and continue their winning ways against, not winning ways, but continue their ways or their strong, scrappy ways against UC San Diego. Because UC San Diego, they, as well as Pepperdine and Long Beach State, they played in a little bit of a scrimmage tournament. It was between 3 Canadian teams and 3 USA or 3 NCAA men's volleyball teams, where all 3 teams wound up sweeping the Canadian teams. But for UC San Diego, this is going to be quite fascinating. And contrary to popular belief, their first match of the season does not count as an official NCAA men's volleyball match. It was against Calgary, and event after further review, it does not count. So no one tell me that the Calgary versus UC San Diego men's volleyball match counted. But UC San Diego won't be really rusty, but McKendree will be battle-tested because they will have seen kind of one of them. So I'm looking forward to seeing what UC San Diego and McKendree can do. Then we jump to Wednesday. We have, UC San Diego will be hosting St. Francis. Concordia Irvine will be hosting Merrimack. Catawba will be heading down to Tennessee to take on King. And we have Roberts Wiseland taking on Central State. So Thursday, we have, I think Harvard and Hawaii play on Wednesday as well. I forgot to mention, Harvard and Hawaii play on Wednesday. So Harvard will be kicking off its season. Look, Hawaii's going to be ever so prepared just because they finally got those first 2 matches. Harvard will have the ever so tough challenge of playing on the road, but we'll see what they can do. I mean, Harvard, not much can be said about Harvard. They do have Zach Birdie returning, but they're going to be in for a very tough challenge. But this is why you schedule these type of matches, because the EIVA with Penn State, that's going to be even tougher. But we'll see what Harvard can do on Wednesday. And then Thursday, UC Irvine hosts Menlo. First true test for Menlo. You got CSUN hosting Tusculum, Vanguard hosting Merrimack. UCLA, the reigning champion, they will be kicking off their title defense yet again against Fairleigh Dickinson, which I like this. I think Fairleigh Dickinson and Carl France having that scheduling is a very good thing. So good on Carl France for not being afraid of the challenge and whatnot. Then you got Damon at USC. This one is kind of a fun matchup. I think USC can get a little bit of a challenge from Damon. I think Damon is a much better team than most people give them credit for. I think Damon can maybe challenge them because they were obviously disappointed in not making the NCAA tournament, even though they wound up winning their conference tournament. But we also got to remember that there are only 6 automatic qualifiers from the SIAC, the Conference of Carolinas, the MIVA, the MPSF, the EIVA, and from the Big West. And then you got 2 at-larges, which UC Irvine wound up getting the first at-large, and then UCLA got the other at-large. But yeah, Damon USC, that could be a sneaky good matchup. Now, for those attending, you got to remember, it's at the Galen Center Pavilion. It's not going to be at Galen Center. It's going to be at Galen Center Pavilion. So, little smaller gym than normal, but I think USC and Damon can have themselves a nice little match. And we got UC Santa Barbara hosting Missouri S&T. This is another sneaky good matchup. Lincoln Memorial or LMU heading down to North Greenville to play them. I mean, not the most glamorous matchup, but it's still pretty solid. It's not a bad match per se, but I think for Lincoln Memorial and North Greenville, that could be a sneaky good matchup between 2 unranked teams. I mean, Lincoln Memorial plays in the IVA, the Independent Volleyball Association Conference. And let's see if Lincoln Memorial can have himself a great season in terms of winning on the road, because they can do well at home. That is a fact. But winning on the road, that still remains to be seen. And then a few other outlier matches: Roberts Wiseland versus Thomas More, Erskine at Barry, and so on. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And that's on Thursday. Friday, we have Fort Valley State at Ohio State. Now, you're probably wondering, why is this a match? Well, Ohio State is hosting the NCAA men's volleyball tournament, or the National Collegiate men's volleyball tournament. And Fort Valley State did wind up making the NCAA tournament last year. So expect a whole lot of Ohio State home matches where Ohio State is going to be the home team and everyone will be traveling to them. Then we've got Tusculum at UC Irvine, Merrimack at Pepperdine, Lincoln Memorial at Belmont Abbey. Nice little matchup right there. Nice little Conference of Carolinas matchup right there for Lincoln Memorial, on back-to-back days. Then you got Edward Waters versus Emmanuel, which, if I recall, I don't think that's a conference match, but I could be wrong. Then you've got Ball State versus Stanford. This is probably the match of the week right here. Ball State at Stanford. Well, actually, no. Second, this is the series of the week. Match of the week will go to someone else, but Ball State at Stanford, that's going to be a fun one. I think Ball State is going to get a big challenge, and I think this kind of makes up for them not attending the First Point Collegiate Challenge, which I really would have liked to have seen Ball State, but it is what it is. And then we have the true match of the week. We have Penn State at Loyola Chicago, the re-coaching debut of Shane Davis as Penn State comes to the Windy City to take on the Ramblers. I'm going to be interested to see how Loyola Chicago fares against Penn State. I think the Ramblers can hang with Penn State, but Penn State is as good as advertised still. I know they lost quite a bit to graduation, but they still return Owen Rose, Vinnie Merck, among others. And then they returned Michael Schwobe, the setter. So don't sleep on Penn State this season. And then UCLA also plays St. Francis. UC San Diego hosts Damon. Then we jump to Saturday. We have Friday we have Harvard versus Hawaii round 2. Then we jump to Saturday. We have, Fort Valley State versus Ohio State round 2. We have Long Beach State in their official season opener against Fairleigh Dickinson. We have Princeton at USC, which that'll be played at the Galen Center. I think it's going to be a fun matchup. I think USC can get a little bit of a good challenge against Princeton. I think Princeton can even, we'll see. I mean, I'm not going to say that Princeton will beat USC, but I think Princeton has a good shot against SC. But SC is super stacked. They pretty much returned their entire starting lineup. They have a bunch of young, talented freshmen that are going to do good, and they obviously have Guy Gannis. Then Damon at Concordia Irvine, Ball State versus Stanford round 2, Penn State at Lewis. The big series matchup right there. And this is something that Penn State needs to do. This is what Penn State loves to do. They love to schedule tough competition in non-conference play, and you're going to see more of that this season. And they know that the EIVA, it sometimes doesn't have the ranked-on-ranked matchups and intense matchups that they would like, but I think for Penn State, this is a good week for them to schedule non-ranked-on-ranked non-conference matches that are ranked. So I think for Penn State, this is going to be a big week for them. We're going to see what they're truly all about, and we're going to see if Lewis or Loyola deserve to crack the top 10. But that's pretty much that. Oh, Menlo and CSUN, that's another, I guess, notable matchup. GCU also kicks off its season when they hit the road to New Jersey to take on NJIT. It's going to be a fun matchup right there. And that is pretty much that for the matches on Saturday. And then Sunday, we only have 2, Fairleigh Dickinson at Pepperdine. And then we have Charleston of West Virginia heading down to North Carolina to take on Queens. And that is pretty much that for all of the NCAA men's volleyball matches to watch for this week, at least for the notable ones. But all in all, that's going to do it for the NCAA men's volleyball season. I know there's not a lot of NCAA men's volleyball teams to go over, but what can you do? All right, but we're going to take ourselves a quick little commercial break. When we come back, we will discuss some LOVB volleyball, and we'll also discuss some Pro Volleyball Federation. Before we continue, or before we head to the commercial break, I do got to give a shout to Brandon Buck, a.k.a. The Franchise. He says, have a great show, Teran. Go Mighty Ducks. Yes, go Ducks indeed. Thank you, Brandon. And then, or Franchise. And then we also have ACS in the building. He says, what's good? Have a great show, bro. Thank you, ACS. I appreciate you. All right, now we'll take a commercial break. Then when we come back, we've got Pro Volleyball Federation to discuss. And then we have LOVB volleyball to discuss. And so much more. Keep it locked here. You were listening to Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
What's up, New York? This is Ricky K coming at you with the NY State of Sports, a new show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Listen to me every Thursday afternoon as we bring you the latest takes on the Yankees, Mets, Jets, Giants, Knicks, Nets, Rangers, Devils, and Islanders. Plus, you get some college hoops and what's the local sports events going on in the area. It's a state that never sleeps, so why not get the opinions and sports takes that never sleep? Again, every Thursday, 2 p.m. to the NY State of Sports. We'll see you then.
Hey, Cleveland and Columbus sports fans. This is Jen D, host of the Show of the Land on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. If you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in live to the Show of the Land on Tuesdays, where we will cover the Cleveland Browns, Cavs, Guardians, and Monsters. We will also talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets, Crew, Fury, and of course, the Ohio State Buckeyes. We'll also cover other colleges in the area like Akron, Kent State, Cleveland State, Mount Union, John Carroll, Baldwin Wallace, Youngstown State, among others. So like I said, if you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in Tuesdays to the Show of the Land with Jen B on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Back with segment number 2 of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out our amazing shows such as the Show of the Land and New York State Sports. All right, without any further delay, let's get on into the second part of our show. So we're actually going to preview the Pro Volleyball Federation. So the Pro Volleyball Federation just released its preseason poll, which is actually convenient timing because I was looking forward to previewing the Pro Volleyball Federation. So it's going to be season 2 of the Pro Volleyball Federation, which I think is some awesome sauce. So let's actually go over some said news from the Pro Volleyball Federation, and let's also go over the preseason coaches poll. So looking at the most recent news, the Pro Volleyball Federation has announced its preseason poll, and the favorite to win it all, or in terms of the regular season, is Atlanta. So the Atlanta Vibe were chosen to finish first. They actually had more points than last year. Well, but they actually aren't too far behind. The Atlanta Vibe actually garnered 43 points in terms of the order of finish, and they actually had 4 first-place votes. Finishing behind them is the Orlando Valkyries. They garnered 2 first-place votes, and they garnered 41 points. Then the Omaha Supernovas were selected to finish third. They had 36 points, and they received 1 first-place vote. Then the Indy Ignite, the new team from the PVF, they had 1 first-place vote and garnered 27 points. And then the Grand Rapids Rise were chosen to finish 5th. They had 26 points. The Vegas Thrill had 25 points. San Diego Mojo were chosen to finish 7th. They had 14 points. And then the Columbus Fury were chosen to finish last. They had 12 points. So all in all, well, look, my old saying is the first polls are the worst polls. And honestly, as much as everyone would like to think that Atlanta will win it all, I think that sounds right. Atlanta did have the number 1 pick they got from the Indy Ignite, they selected Merritt Beeson. But let's slow our roll with all this. San Diego Mojo, remember, they were chosen to finish second to last year, and they wound up shocking the entire world and making the playoffs. So if I were a team, I would use this as bulletin board material. And then, the Vegas, I think we could see a lot of improvement from some teams. It's tough to really tell. I think that everyone just needs to realize this is just a preseason poll, that this is not the real deal. But yeah, the Vibe were chosen to finish first. That sounds about right. The Valkyries, they obviously have an improved team. Amy Pauley's done an amazing job with that program. The Supernovas, they're the reigning champions. You gotta put some respect on their name. The Indy Ignite were chosen to finish fourth, and so on and so forth. The Ignite are going to be such an interesting team, so we'll see what happens. Anyway, for the preseason All-League team, we have Leah Edmond of the Atlanta Vibe, Morgan Hens of the Atlanta Vibe, Reagan Cooper of the Omaha Supernovas, Brooke Nutteviller of the Omaha Supernovas, Brittany Abercrombie, a newcomer to the PVF from the Orlando Valkyries, Kaz Brown of the Orlando Valkyries, and then Ronica Stone of the San Diego Mojo is also on the preseason All-League team. So, all right, that is that right there. And I guess I kind of agree with it. I think Omaha maybe should be finishing second over Orlando, but what do I know? And this is no disrespect to Orlando or the other teams. But anyway, so Thursday is when everything begins. So year 2 of the Pro Volleyball Federation, and we get our first matchup is the San Diego Mojo taking on the Orlando Valkyries. So I think this is going to be fascinating if you ask me. So I really want to see how the Orlando Valkyries look. And I think for the Mojo, I think this is kind of motivation on they can prove everybody wrong and that they can actually win against some of the big time teams, because the Mojo got off to such a slow start. Let's keep it a buck. But then they proved everybody wrong. They kept winning game after match after match after match after match, and then they wound up winning when it truly mattered. So looking at the team for the Mojo, I think for the Mojo, they've got some good returnees, and I think I can't access their team. Why can't I access their team? There we go. All right, so the Mojo roster has Raynell Jones, Shara Venegas. She's going to be good at the libero position. Some other notable names, Veronica Stone, Kendra Dalkey. That's a big-time name right there. Rosier Calderon, Camille Hiapo, Sarah Sponsel. She came from the Grand Rapids Rise. Layla Blackwell, I think, can make a big impact. Elise McGee can make another big impact. Reagan Pittman, another good impact player. Kayla Young, who was on the Columbus Fury, she's now on San Diego. She's back in California. Janae Zamore, I think, can make a big impact. Devin Robinson can also make a big impact. And their coaching staff, their head coach is still Taiba Hanif Park. So that's some of the notables from the San Diego Mojo. Now, as for the roster for the Orlando Valkyries, this is going to be okay. I really want to see if Orlando can do some big things. Brittany Abercrombie, former USC standout, I want to see her do big things. Lydia Grote, I think, can be a big impact player. Casimir Brown, Adora Ane as well. We have Nalani Yosia. I actually covered her back when she was at Redondo Union High School. Georgia Murphy, she is a fantastic libero. Hannah Pukis, the two are actually, Murphy and Pukis, they actually have reunited because they were actually both on Oregon. So it's pretty cool right there. And then they also have Lindsay Vanderweide and Nora Sis. Nora Sis, and I think all eyes are going to be on Nora Sis this year because she had such a decorated collegiate volleyball year, and I really look forward to seeing what they can do. So Amy Pauley, as we all know, is the head coach, and she's the VP of volleyball operations. And then former NVA player Tyler Hubbard-Neal is the assistant coach. I didn't even know that, but that's pretty darn cool if you ask me. So that's pretty much that for Orlando. So how do these two teams match up? So San Diego, look, I really want to see if San Diego is better than this whole 7 thing. Because, again, I want to see if the polls are actually looking deep into the San Diego team. I mean, San Diego was chosen to finish second to last year, and look at what they did. They wound up making the postseason. So Orlando, this is basically the matchup of show me what you both can do. I want to see what both of these teams can do. I really want to see what they're all about. I want to see if both of these teams are on their A game to start the season, and I want to see what they're all about. And then and that's on Thursday, so that's the only matchup that's going to be happening, which I think is going to be pretty darn cool. Then for Friday, we have the Atlanta Vibe taking on the Omaha Supernovas. So the Vibe, this is basically not round two, but this is basically the first match of the season, or a rematch of the first match of the season from last year. And I think it's pretty cool. So Merritt Beeson, obviously all eyes are on her. She was the number 1 pick from the PVF draft. We also have Anna Dixon, who in her last collegiate season, I felt bad for her because she actually had a season-ending injury, but it is what it is, and she's back playing volleyball. You have Leah Edmond. You have Whitney Bower. Casey Evans can make a big impact. Shelly Fanning will also do big things. Morgan Hens is back at the libero position, which I think is pretty darn cool. And so on and so forth. They got a lot of good setters. That's the one thing that sticks out to me. They got Mia Tuaniga. They've got Marley Monserrat. They have Whitney Bower. So it's going to be fascinating to see who will get the starting spot at the setter position, or if they'll run a 6-2. So Kayla Banworth is their head coach, so you have that to look forward to if you're the Atlanta Vibe. And all eyes are on the Vibe because they definitely have a lot of upside to their team, especially getting that number 1 pick. And they have Leah Edmond. That is going to be such a dynamic duo. Anyway, so as for the Omaha Supernovas, the first person that sticks out to me is Brooke Nennefeller. Let's keep it a buck. Then you've got Kendra Waite, who is going to most likely be at the setter position. Reagan Cooper, I think, will do big things. Valeria Vasquez Gomez is also another player to watch for. Matt Pedraza might be vying for that setter position, but we shall see, because you got to remember, Sydney Hilly moved on from the Supernovas and got signed by the Indy Ignite. So it's basically a question of who's going to be filling the setter position. But all eyes are going to be on the former Nebraska players, such as Kayla Cathey. You've got Lindsay Krause. You've got Allie Batenhorst. So all eyes are going to be on. Oh, and Caitlin Horde. Can't forget about Caitlin Horde. And same with the Creighton players. You got Allison Witten, and then you got Kendra Wade. So all eyes are going to be on those Creighton and Nebraska players who hail from Nebraska. So looking at this matchup, this is obviously the original. This was the first ever matchup. So can't go wrong with it. And this is probably going to be the match of the week. And this should be the match of the week. I mean, yes, we have the Mojo taking on the Valkyries, but I think the Vibe and the Supernovas, this was the PVF matchup for the million that we wish we could have gotten, but unfortunately did not get. So I think for these two, I'm going to say this one goes 5. Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe I won't be. All right, but next up, we got the Grand Rapids Rise versus the Vegas Thrill. My boy Daniel Gilman, former Set Point guest, will be on the call for this matchup, which I think is going to be pretty darn cool if you ask me. But looking at the Rise's roster, you've got Simone Abbott returning. You've got Ali Bastianelli to look forward to. Got Paige Briggs-Romine, who came from the Omaha Supernovas. Raven Colvin is a first-year player, which I think is cool. Maren Grote is back. You've got Alina Ogilvy vying for the libero position, and so on and so forth. Jenna Otek could also vie for the libero position too. Erica Pritchard is also returning as well, and August Rasky also returns. All eyes are going to be on the Grand Rapids Rise because last year they made it to the Match of the Million championship only to get, I hate to say this word, dusted off by the Supernovas, which, let's be honest, Omaha wasn't going to be losing to the Grand Rapids Rise. So all in all, I think for the Rise, this is another show me what you got season. And I feel they definitely have a good chance. I think they definitely can do big things. It's just that I don't know how far they can truly go because everyone got better this offseason. And I'm wondering if the Grand Rapids Rise will have got better as well. But one will know when we see them on Friday. And then as for the Vegas Thrill, the first player that comes to mind, and let's keep it a buck, is Hannah Maddox. There's no doubt in my mind. First player that comes to mind when it comes to the Vegas Thrill, Hannah Maddox. And then you've got other players like Carly Graham. That's a newcomer on this team. Saskia Hippe is on this team. Alicia Glass-Childress returns. She'll probably be setting. Kendall White, who came from the Supernovas, she'll probably be the libero. Lane Van Buskirk returns at the middle blocker position. Gloria Sloberg comes from San Diego. She'll look to vie for a spot. So we shall see what will happen with this Vegas team. So Vegas is under new head coach Ramon Monchito Hernandez. So you have that right there. So, okay, this is kind of a tough match to describe this as, but I think this is kind of the battle of which both of these teams coming from different directions from last season. The Grand Rapids Rise came from the direction of coming off of the championship, while the Rise were coming off of a season where they had expectations, but unfortunately did not meet them. I mean, they had that amazing first win of the season against Omaha, but then they just could not keep up with those expectations. So there's that right there. And then Saturday, we've got the San Diego Mojo versus the Columbus Fury. So I already talked about the Mojo's roster. So the Fury, look, I really want to have high hopes on the Columbus Fury. I think the Columbus Fury can definitely do great things. As Paula Kriame is a player to watch for. Megan Courtney Lush is back. Kate Georgiadis, I think, will do great things for this team. We've also got Morgan Lewis that returns. Jill Gillen comes from the Orlando Valkyries to the Columbus Fury. Tori Stringer, formerly known as Tori Dilfer, she returns. Raina Terry, I think, will be a dynamite player to watch for, and so on and so forth. Angel Perez is the new head coach of the Columbus Fury, or the head coach of the Columbus Fury. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the Fury can do. Now, this is kind of the battle of the Fury versus the Mojo, and this is kind of the battle of can the Fury get back on track after an okay season last year. I mean, they obviously tied for last with the Thrill and with the Valkyries, but this is a new season, and let's see what the Fury can do. This is kind of the battle of the two teams that were picked to finish at the bottom. But I think the Fury can definitely do a lot of great things. I think they are much better than last place, but it's so tough to project where everyone's going to be just because this is week one. And like I said, the first polls are the worst polls. All right, but that is that for that little matchup right there. Then we've got the Orlando Valkyries and the Indy Ignite. Looking at the Indy Ignite's roster from this season, you got Grace Cleveland. This is just basically a bunch of maybe a mixture of newcomers and a mixture of players that were on teams that signed as free agents. So you've got Grace Cleveland, Sydney Hilly, Lekator Member Monet, Kylie Murr, Carly Scott, Ajani Taylor, Chiamaka Nokolo, and that's pretty much that for their roster for the time being. And the roster doesn't even show their head coach, which, yeah. But it is what it is. So this will be the Indy Ignite's first ever match, and this will be played at Fisher's Event Center. But they're playing a very talented Orlando team, so we'll see what happens. Again, this is a big week for the Valkyries. I mean, it's the first week, but I want to see the Orlando Valkyries prove themselves. I want to see that they actually deserve to be chosen to finish chosen to finish second in the PVF preseason poll. And then Sunday we've got the Supernovas versus the Grand Rapids Rise. That's going to be on FS1, by the way. Rematch of last year's Match of the Million. That's going to be fun. And then we've got the Atlanta Vibe taking on the Vegas Thrill in Vegas. It's going to be another fun matchup right there. So that is pretty much that for all of the Pro Volleyball Federation matches to watch for this week. And here's to another great season. So next we move on to LOVB. And we're actually going to take ourselves one last commercial break. But when we come back, we've got the LOVB Week 1 preview. And then I'll discuss Eric Sullivan being hired as the U.S. Women's National Team Coach of Women's Volleyball. And then I'll let you all go. So keep it locked here. You're listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph Calise, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate, diehard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports. And I will update you on all that's black and gold, have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Calise, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
And we are back for the final segment of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out our shows such as the Injury Report and Chi-Town Weekly. Chi-Town Weekly will be on momentarily, but for now, let's get on into some more Pro Volleyball Federation. So now let's talk some LOVB action. So Love, or LOVB as it's called, is going to make its inaugural season. So the first match is going to be on Wednesday, January 8th, where we have the LOVB Atlanta taking on Salt Lake. Yeah, again, there's not going to be any team names, so they're not like the Atlanta Argonauts or the Salt Lake City Spartans or the Salt Lake Spartans. So it's not going to be like that. So first matchup is going to be the Atlanta versus Salt Lake. So looking at Atlanta's team, they got a bunch of players that I've kind of heard of, but not really heard of. They've got Oni Ofobu, Maddie Bug, Rachel Fairbanks, who they just recently signed, Magda Yalashrava. We got Kelsey Cook and Gia Day. Yeah, so this is going to be very new for me. This is going to be like new and unfamiliar territory. But this matchup is going to be available on ESPN Plus, which I think is pretty darn cool if you ask me. And then LOVB Utah will also have Jordan Poulter, who was on the national team. You have Skylar Fields, Tori Dixon, Sophie Fisher, Serena Gray, Roni Jones-Perry, Haley Washington, Danny Drews. Yes, Danny Drews, not Annie Drews. And Claire Hoffman, just to name a few. So I can't really preview this match ultimately. I mean, Atlanta and Salt Lake, this is my thing is for LOVB is that this is the first week of the season, and there weren't any preseason polls from what I saw and whatnot, or players to watch for. So there is nothing we can really preview just because there's no preseason poll and whatnot. So again, what I look forward to is I'm looking forward to this gaining traction just because pro volleyball in North America is what we need, and that's how you grow the game of volleyball. So that's that first match. Then Thursday we have Austin heading down to Houston to take on Houston. So looking at Austin's roster in terms of its roster, Austin, obviously, some notable names that come to mind are Kat Bell, Carly Lloyd, the volleyball player, not the soccer player, Molly McCage, Asia O'Neill, Sage Kahaina Torres, Zoe Jarvis, but she was normally known as Zoe Flack, Chiaka Ogbagu, Maddie Skinner, and Logan Eggleston, and then Anna Hawk. But yeah, a lot of Texas players, a lot of former Texas players, which that kind of makes sense. So that is that for the Austin side of things. And then we head to Houston. Okay, Houston, their roster consists of Grace Froling. Why did I say Loberg? Grace Froling, that's a notable name. Amber Igidi, Jess Merzick, who they just recently signed from a couple weeks ago. Then you got Micah Hancock. Oh, man, Micah Hancock and Jess Merzick, two Penn Staters from different times. That's going to be fun. Jordan Thompson, which I think is going to be fun, another great player to watch for. So I think a lot of good players on all these teams. I don't want to go over every player just because I'm not going to be Mother Goose and whatnot. So I think it's going to be another fun matchup. And then Friday, you've got Madison versus Austin, which for Madison, looking at their team, they have some notable names. One, obviously, we know, which will be Sarah Franklin. Then you've got Anna Hall or Anna Stevenson. Then you've formerly known as Anna Stevenson. Then you got Lauren Carlini, another Wisconsin player that we all know. Claire Felix, Claire Chaussee. You've got Annie Schumacher. Then Annie Schumacher, hold on. That's Annie Drews. So she recently got married, or not recently, but she did get married, so she's not Annie Drews. I was wondering, wait, Annie Schumacher? But then I got to realize that some of these players might get married and they might change their last name, so legally change their last name. But yeah, Annie Schumacher or Annie Drews. Temi Thomas Ilara, that's another former Wisconsin player in Northwestern. Sarah Franklin, as we all know, and so on and so forth. Matt Furbringer is the head coach. That's my guy right there. And I kind of feel bad for Mateo. This kind of makes me wish that LOVB had a California team, just because I think it would be pretty cool if you ask me. Look, I get it. Y'all are going to say, volleyball's not as big as it is in California in terms of like comparing it to Nebraska or Indiana and whatnot. Well, I kind of beg to differ. I think volleyball is just as big in terms of volleyball. Maybe more so in California, but in terms of on the men's side. But I think on the women's side, it's still pretty big. And then as for the Omaha roster, we all need no introduction to the first player, Lexi Rodriguez. Then you got Justine Wong-Orantes. Then you've got Jordan Larson, the governor. Then you've got Gabby Blossom, another notable who didn't go to Nebraska, but is definitely notable. You got Lauren Stivrins. We got Maddie Kubik or Maddie Kubik Banks. Audrina Fitzmaurice, that's another notable name right there. And so on and so forth. So Omaha kicks off its season on Friday when they head down to Houston. And then Madison plays at Austin. So they're both actually playing in the same place. So it's actually going to be a doubleheader. So very interesting. So that's kind of cool right there, having a doubleheader right there. I'm not it says that they're going to be playing at the same time, but I don't believe it for 1 second. But all in all, that's pretty much that for LOVB. Again, I wish I could have a better preview of this, but it's the inaugural week of LOVB, and there's no preseason poll that was released to my knowledge. So you have that right there. So that's that for the LOVB Week 1 preview. So we've got lots of volleyball that's ahead of us. That's why I kind of titled this show New Volleyball on the Block instead of like New Kids on the Block, just because we've got some new volleyball happening. We have LOVB happening. We have new pro volleyball players. We have new NCAA men's volleyball teams making their NCAA debut, coming from like the lower divisions and whatnot. So that's kind of the reason why I titled it New Volleyball on the Block. All right, but that is that for LOVB. Before we head on out, we have to address the big elephant in the room. Eric Sullivan being named the new U.S. Women's National Volleyball Team head coach. So I don't know about you all, but I did not have this on my bingo card in terms of like possible nominees. But I mean, it's a good hire. I mean, some are saying this is a good hire. And they had this sense of urgency is with the women's national team season set to begin in 6 months. We had to move quickly but thoughtfully. And this was courtesy of John Speraw, former set point guest, by the way. But Sullivan. Look, sorry. Some gave me some interest, some of their takes. One person said, anytime you can hire a career assistant who's never been a head coach of even a college program to lead the host nation national team trying to win an Olympic gold medal, I suppose you have to do it. And then someone else said, U.S. volleyball is now led by individuals mentored by Al Skates, the legendary Al Skates, and Karch Karai, John Speraw, and now Eric Sullivan. And then someone also said, hiring someone without any head coach experience, with capital letters, as the national team head coach is a choice, also in capital letters. So, look, I get it. I mean, maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe I'm missing something here, but we got to give it some sort of chance. I think Eric Sullivan can do great things. He's served as an associate head coach at the University of Texas, where he helped guide the Longhorns to 8 NCAA Final Four appearances and 3 national titles, which prior to this past season, the 2 that they were won previously, and then the 1 in 2013. So, and he also brings more than just a proven track record from collegiate volleyball. He has firsthand experience on the international stage. He's a 2-time Olympian. At least he has that. If he didn't have that, I had to do that. But he's a 2-time Olympian. He represented the U.S. as a libero in the 2000 and 2024 Olympic Games. His international playing career, which also includes stints from professional leagues across Europe and the U.S., has given him a deep understanding of the global volleyball landscape and the demands of international competition. So, and he also served as the team leader for the U.S. men's national team at the last 3 Olympic Games and has been the consultant coach for the squad for many years. He's also part of the National Team Development Program Scouting Network for the indoor girls. And in 2011, he led the U.S. Women's Junior National Team to a 4th place finish at the World Championship. His collegiate coaching experience also includes an assistant coach at Nebraska and Colorado. So I think he can do great things. I get it, y'all. Everyone is wondering why this guy doesn't have any head coaching experience, but maybe we're missing something that John Speraw didn't spill. I think maybe that this Eric Sullivan character, I think he could do great things, and he's got a good pedigree. It's just that no head coaching experience. I get it. Everyone doesn't like that, but at least he has USA experience in terms of playing. So it's not like they hired somebody off the street. So off the street with like no coaching experience and no USA volleyball experience and whatnot. So all in all, for the U.S. women's national team, we're going to give this a chance. The Olympics don't begin until 2028, where it'll be taking place in Los Angeles. But we also got to remember that training, obviously, the off 6 months is basically kind of like in the summer, we get to see like international play, like the U.S. takes on like the VNL, for instance. That's what I'm getting at. The VNL is basically in 6 months, and it's going to be something to look forward to. And maybe I could try to get some. Maybe I could try to get him on as a guest. I think that would be pretty cool if I were to get him on as a guest for Set Point. We'll see whether it's on Set Point Extra Points or on the live show. But all in all, there you have it. Eric Sullivan is the new head coach of the women's national volleyball team. All right, but that is going to do it for that little bit of news. Let me know what you all think of Eric Sullivan being the new head coach of the U.S. women's national team. I mean, again, I've got mixed feelings about it. Certainly didn't have this on my bingo card, let alone having him as a possible candidate. I had candidates such as Dan Fisher, Taiba Hanif Park, maybe Robin Amo, maybe Tyler Hildebrand. Okay, that's a little too far-fetched, but maybe Brad Keller, and so on and so forth. I highly doubt Jared Elliott or John Cook would want to do it, but maybe I might be missing something. So we'll see. Again, we just got to warm up to this whole thing. Maybe he'll be a pleasant surprise, but time will tell. But that's going to do it for the USA Women's Volleyball portion of the show and this bit of news. Again, let me know what you all think when it comes to Eric Sullivan being the new head coach of the U.S. Women's National Volleyball Team. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. And Jen B, she didn't say this on she didn't post this on the live chat, but she did say that she doesn't like the Columbus Fury being chosen to finish last in the Pro Volleyball Federation preseason poll. Which, look, I get it. You have to remember, Jen B is a Columbus Fury fan, and she is the host of the Show of the Land. And she obviously said she doesn't like seeing the Columbus Fury being in last place or being chosen to finish in the last place. But again, preseason polls are sometimes the worst polls, but I digress. All right, but that's going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. Enjoy the volleyball action. Have a great rest of the week. The first episode of 2025 is officially in the books, and we're only 20 episodes away from episode 300. And I'm hoping that one gets to be a barn burner. I really want that to be very special with like guests and whatnot, because I got a lot of reflecting to do. But until then, have yourself a great rest of the week. Enjoy the volleyball action, whether it's professional or collegiate. And I will see you all on Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Have yourself a great week, everybody. Peace.